Hello and welcome back, and this week I'm going to show you the entire process on how I make these gorgeous geode inspired resin paintings. It's been requested quite a few times, so finally here it is for you. I hope you enjoy. So to start off with, prep work is really important when creating geode artwork. I am going to be using a really handy silicone mat that I always use when I create my resin art, just to catch the drips, and then I can just peel it off once it's done. This one's from T-Expert, and it's the largest mat that they have, and it's really handy. So thank you to T-Expert for sponsoring this video tutorial. They also sell a really clever little gadget which I have and I will be using in a future tutorial. It's a leveling table with adjustable legs so that your resin creations are always level. So visit their website to purchase yours, and I will leave all the links in the description under this video. And for this piece I'm doing a mini geode. I'm using a 20 by 20 centimeter canvas. I'm going to coat the background with just 2 layers of a black acrylic paint and let it dry completely. And at the back I have just put a couple of push pins to prop it up to let the drips fall down the sides. And I always start off by drawing out my geode lines with a pencil. This just helps me when it comes to placing down the lines. As for finding stones to use, if you're in the US, Laura's Art Corner has a great selection of fireglass and quartz that are just perfect for creating geodes. So I will equally leave the link in the description under this video for you. And when it comes to placing the stones and the clusters, I'll usually try a number of combinations until I find the combination that I like, or the design that I like, and I find that this really is the integral part of these geode paintings. So it's worth taking your time to decide where you'd like each of these clusters and stones. You obviously don't have to spend all day on this, but I usually take a good half an hour and try different combinations, and you'll be surprised at how many different combinations you can come up with just the same stones. Now for the stones here, I am just using some from IKEA. They're crushed glass. This is in black. I thought this would go really well with the black clusters and the black background. And I'm just using this piece of paper to place down so I can catch the stones and move on to the next design. So finally I came up with this design. I felt it's the most simplest to show you how, especially if you're a beginner. And the choice of resin is really important for resin art. You do need something specifically for geode art. So I am using this art epoxy from T-Expert. It's a 1:1 resin measured by weight, and it really doesn't have much of a smell to it, which I love. I hate resins that stink. It just means that you have to wear extra masks and open the windows, and at the moment when it's quite cold, don't want to be freezing in your art studio. And it comes with this really handy scraper and this non-stick stirring stick, which resin just peels off. So I'm using 100 grams of resin for this 20 by 20 canvas. So I've just mixed 50 grams of part A and 50 grams of part B, and I have mixed for 3 minutes. Going to be using just 3 tints for this piece, so I'm pouring a little out into these 3 cups, and I will be mixing in some colours in a minute. But first I am going to start by sealing the crystals with just some clear resin on the top. Don't put too much, don't want to bury all of the stones in resin, you just want to seal it in almost like a glue. And for this piece I've decided to do a combination of black, grey and a black with a little bit of glitter inside. So I'm just going to add about 2 little spoonfuls, I would say, spoonfuls inside these little tiny shot glasses. That's really all you need for this. You don't want that much, but you do want it to be nice and opaque. This is just a resin tint. So you have a mixture of mica powder and a tint, which gives 3 different effects. And then this is just a little bit of druzy glitter added into the black. Make sure you mix these up well, because you don't want little bits of mica powder floating up to the top. And then it's time to pour. So when I'm doing my workshops, what I like to tell my students to do is think of them as little stripes, wavy stripes in this case. In alternating colours, that's the best combination. So I am going to place down each one of these, starting from the bottom all the way up to the top, alternating each colour. Now, whatever you do as a pour, it will never be the same the next morning. Inevitably, the resin will be moving around overnight, and you might find a different design in the morning, but that's okay. If you pour on day 1 and day 2, it's settled down and cured and you don't like it, you can always do another pour right on the top of it. So I also tell my students not to be frightened of what it looks like in this first step. It always looks a bit of a mess, and it kind of comes to life in the next steps when we add the glitter lines and then the pen lines. So you can add your glitter lines after a couple of hours. I have waited here maybe an hour after pouring. I've mixed some more resin up, and I have just added lots and lots of my glitter inside. This is a dark grey glitter. I'm going to pour this into a piping bag, and then I'm going to wait about 10 to 20 minutes for this to thicken up in the piping bag, and then I'm ready to pour. So this is a little tip for you. If you pour this straight away after mixing your resin, your glitter lines will just spread out. So unless you want that look, if you want a nice thin traditional glitter line look on your geode artwork, wait at least 20 minutes. You may even, depending on your resin, go to 30 minutes. Make sure it's nice and thick and viscous, and then you can pour your glitter line. Now for this small piece I've just added one, and this is the next day, and this is the time that the magic happens. I'm going to add all of my lines. I'm using a mixture of Posca and Molotow pens in various thicknesses, and I'm just going to add them where I feel they need to be. And these would be the lines of a natural geode. When you slice a natural geode in half, you slice it, you can see these almost like ring marks going from the center all the way around. And that's what we're trying to mimic here. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of gold gilding just to the outside of those stones on the bottom right and bottom top left. I am being a little daring by adding gold and silver, but I think it worked really well. So I'm going to be using gold leaf for this. I just feel like it's got more shine to it than just gilding liquid, but you can use a gold pen, a gilding gold pen, or just some gilding liquid. So my gilding liquid, or size as it's called, takes about 20 minutes to dry. It needs to go completely opaque before you can add the gold leaf to it. I like to speed things up with a blow dryer. It does work. And then just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to slice these into strips. And then add them on very carefully because these do fly away. Now just for information, these are not real gold leaf. These are imitation gold leaf. They're metallic leaf. They actually have a really nice shine to them and do not lose their shininess when you add the top coat. So I actually prefer metallic leaf than real gold leaf, and of course it's just a little cheaper. So I am only adding these to the outside edge of these stones that we added at the beginning. Because this is a small piece, I'm not going to do one in the middle as I sometimes normally would. With gold gilding leaf or size, you don't need to wait. You can brush it off, and I'm using a soft paintbrush. You can brush it all off, but it does have a tendency to stick to the other parts of the resin, and I don't want it everywhere, so I'm just going to hoover it up very quickly before it flies everywhere. Then I have decided to add a bit more bling because, you know, it's my piece and that's what I want to do, and I like the look of it. So I had one little cluster left, just deciding where I want to put it. And then I'm going to prepare some more resin, the same art epoxy resin by T-Expert, for the top coat. And for this 20 centimeter squared canvas, I've only used 30 grams. So mix it up for 3 minutes. Make sure you scrape the sides and the bottom to incorporate parts A and B. And then I am going to pour right on the top and spread it out with that yellow scraper. I like to go down the sides since this piece will not be framed, and I use my fingers, obviously with the glove on still, to taper down the sides. And As a top coat goes, this worked really well for this piece. I was actually really pleased with the glossiness of this resin, and it didn't catch that many, what do you call them, dust bits that go in the air. But you know, I am of the philosophy that nothing is perfect. This is handmade, it's your piece. You should love it the way it is, and if there are a couple of dust particles that have fallen onto the top, just accept it as being perfectly imperfect. Now I do use a heat gun with this resin, just in case there are any exposed canvas. I don't like to use a blowtorch because that can burn your canvas or your artwork, especially if you're using acrylic. So I'm just going to finish off the edges there, add a little bit more heat, and then I'm going to let it cure overnight. So I love it. It did come out exactly as I thought it would. No, hardly any divots, but if there are too many divots in yours, just do another top coat. So I'm going to finish off the back. I'm going to remove my push pins, and then I am going to use my heat gun to heat up the little drips, the resin drips that go down the sides. Do this in sections so that one section doesn't dry before the other one's been peeled off. And this heat gun works really, really well for this. You go over just a couple of seconds and then you peel off the painter's tape and off come the drips. It's like magic. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to add a little vinyl sticker with my signature on. And then I'm going to add a little hook at the back for hanging up. So if you have any questions about this process that I haven't explained to you in this tutorial, leave me a comment underneath this video and I'll be happy to answer. I really hope you've enjoyed this full-length tutorial on how to make this gorgeous geode art piece. And if you've enjoyed this video, please thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell button so you're notified of any future videos. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.